Hi, I'm Bert Hovander. Let me share how I make these penguins. But first, I have to thank my best friend, Steve Gary, for the idea, the design, and his permission to make the video. The intent of this video is to remind myself of how I did it and to share with you. I have reduced it to a 4-minute video for those who only want something short, and I've followed it with a 30-minute video for those who want more. Use the pause button to read the instructions. Remember, you are the one that decides. Be safe, think it through. Is it safe for you? Glue up a square billet, 2/3 dark wood, 1/3 white wood, cut a 3-inch piece off. Step 2. Chuck it up off center. And shape the penguin roughly like a bowling pin. Let's part down and establish the base of the penguin. Taper the bottom. Clean the shape up a little bit. Nice light cut. Remove the tailstock. Take off the damaged wood from the live center very gently. Take your template and decide where you want the penguin to be looking. Mark the eyes and the beak as well as the feet. If you're using a handheld drill, before you do that, mark your holes with an awl. Make a very generous big hole so your bit doesn't wander. Be very steady and drill straight in. I have 0 tear out, so I don't bother with pilot holes. I use a stubby bit and a very steady drill press that you can see here. And drill for your pin. I sand to 600 grit and then buff with a white Scotch-Brite pad to show up any scratches that need to be fixed while they are still easy to fix. 1 or 2 coats of finish will give a really nice shine then. If you use a friction polish, now's the time. Time to glue in your eye pin. Step 8, part off the penguin. Step 9. Piece of old saw blade, drill a 5/32 hole here, drill an 1/8 inch hole here for sizing the tenon with a V-cut to the side. Turn the eye, size the eye, sand, and size the tenon. Step 11, turn the beak, size the beak, prep the tenon, sand, size the tenon. Step 12. Prep the tenon for the feet. Undercut for the tenon. Size the tenon. On the belt tender, stay down flat. Rock it up. Flip it over. Lay it down flat. Rock it up. One completed foot. Assemble with any yellow carpenter's glue. Since it already has a finish, excess glue will easily wipe off. Once assembled, apply another coat of finish, or 2. The first step will be to make a square billet, whatever length that you have. Make it 2/3 some dark wood. I chose black walnut. 1/3 some white wood. I chose red maple. glue it up, square it up on the table saw. Mine ended up being 1.5 inch square. So I cut it into shorter pieces, 2.5 to 3.5 inches long, so my penguins could be different heights. The spur drive in the headstock is in the center of the block. The live center is in the center of the black walnut, so it'll be off center. My block is between the centers, and always when I do that, it's a good idea to lock everything in place and turn the lathe on. Stand aside. I turn the lathe way up and then back down. I retighten the tailstock because I don't want it flying loose. Okay, we're going to shape this kind of like a bowling pin. But first, we need to kind of round it out a little bit. It gets rid of the white wood on the head. I'll start shaping the body a little bit. I have the basic shape, and let's put it in a 4-jaw chuck and we'll refine it a little bit more. As I put it in the 4-jaw chuck, as you can see, I'm only going to grab about 1/8 of an inch. I'm trying to maximize how much wood I have and the height of the penguin. So I just grab it lightly, the live center, and now I can snug it up all the way. This is to show you how little I'm grabbing. I'm only grabbing this 1/8 inch part here. I don't recommend that you do that. I would highly recommend that you put a tenon on it with a nice shoulder. It'd be much safer. So far, I've gotten away with grabbing so little wood, probably because I turn at about 700 RPM, retighten, generally bring up the tailstock, carefully take only very light cuts, and the fact that I haven't had a catch yet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Let's turn the speed way up and see if we have any problems. I'm out of the line of fire. Okay, that sounds good to me. Let's stop it. Double check that for tightness. Oh, a little bit more. Okay, that's always good. I'll try to do both of them. Oh, that went just a hair more as well. If you have trouble with tear out when you drill your holes, at this point is when you should go ahead and do your drilling. I don't have any trouble with the tear out, so I'm going to finish shaping and I will drill later. Okay, I think we're good. Let's remove the live center and the tailstock. And my first order of business will be to establish the bottom of the penguin. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go in maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. Light cuts, take off the end, the damaged portion from the live center. I do want to leave a little bit of a dimple in there. If I take off too much, I'll just bring the live center back up and remark the dimple. I need to taper the bottom. The bottom of the bowling pin has a little bit of a taper to it. Maybe a little bit more. That's as close as I can get to the chuck. Trying to keep my head out away from the camera so I don't block the view, so it makes it a little harder to turn. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Well, I do have a little bit of a mark here. Let's get rid of that. That'll be good enough. I'll get rid of that with some sandpaper. It'd be just as easy right now. The best thing I ever did for my drill press was to add a plywood table that I could clamp to. And here's a quick look under the table. My table is about 16 by 26 inches. My fence is a glue-up of plywood that's about 2 by 4 by 26 inches that I can quickly clamp anywhere. The Irwin clamps I use require only one hand to operate and are quite adequate. If the fence isn't square with the table, it doesn't matter. Once the fence is clamped in place, the drill bit will always be at a constant distance from the fence, no matter the angle of the fence. And my fence is high enough that I can easily clamp on a piece of scrap wood as a stop. And with a little tap, I can micro adjust everything before I firmly clamp things down. I don't want T-track. It's just an added complication that adds nothing for me. To make a line of equally spaced holes, 4 holes precisely spaced on each corner of a board, or even a symmetrical pattern is now quick and easy. Let's make a template to make the eyes, beak, and the feet. I'm using a piece of cutting board from the kitchen that's really thin. I just cut it on a paper cutter. Arbitrarily, I have set this up. The fence is firm and a sacrificial board laid on there. And let's drill a hole for the beak. I'm going to drill it fairly deeply because I want to be able to pin this in place. Have a little beak. I'm going to put it in through the hole and set it in there. Now I'm going to drill a hole for the eye. I need to readjust my fence a little bit. Okay, I moved my fence back a little bit, clamped my sacrificial piece on there, put my beak through the hole, set it in the hole that I drilled. So now I'll drill a hole for the eye. And pick that up, flip it over. Okay, now let's make a template for the feet. I put 2 little circles about a ½ inch apart, and if I drill them, I've set up this sacrificial piece of wood is clamped down. I have a stop clamped here, so I'm just going to drill a hole, and I'll flip it over. Drill the other hole, and clean up the holes. So that I really have perfect symmetry. I have an option of spreading my feet a little further apart. Where do I want to place the eyes? Have him looking straight ahead, or let's have him look a little bit off to the side. See, his center eye would be up if he's going to the side, right? Okay, so let's put some masking tape on there so that when I mark it, I can see it. It will also help with tear out. Okay, let's see. I think let's have him looking up like that, kind of like so, okay? And so and mark the feet. Do I want them closer together? Maybe that's closer together is better. Let's see if make it so it's about centered. And that's pretty good. Oops. I didn't need to put tape here because it's easy to see on the white. Now that you have them marked, I would suggest that you take an awl and make a mark for that beak. Try to get it in the center as best you can. And I would make a real big divot hole like this for all of them to help get your drill started. It will also help greatly with your tear out. Start, be very steady and drill straight in. You may drill your holes with a handheld drill, but I won't. I don't have to because I cheat. And let me show you how I cheat. On my robust lathe, I lay a piece of plastic flooring on the spindle between the indexing hand wheel and the headstock. Next, I screw the spindle lock thumb screw into a shallow hole in the plastic to hold the plastic in place. And now I can micro adjust and lock the spindle in place anywhere without using one of the 48 indexing holes on the hand wheel. This is an old drill press that my dad had, and I've had it around for years and almost thrown it out 15 or 20 times, but I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. I have a Craftsman drill that fits in this Craftsman drill press. I have set it so it's totally, the bit will be totally horizontal, and it is aimed directly toward the center line so that I can swivel it any direction I want and will then hit straight into the penguin. So I'll line it up. Let's do the nose first. We're going to have it heading up, right? So it'll be like so, and we'll tighten everything up. I'm going to size my nose, my eyes, and my feet with an 1/8 inch tenon on them, but I'm going to drill the holes for them 9/64, just a little bit larger. I took a 9/64 inch bit that was old and I cut it off because I wanted a stubby and I didn't have one, so I just made this one. Start very slowly, and once you're in, then you can drill a little faster. This drill sounds like it's just about ready to die, but it still works. And now I'll just drill the rest of the holes. As you can see, I have virtually no tear out on my holes, which I attribute the zero tear out on my drilled holes mainly to using the drill press jig that is very steady and drills straight in. Starting the hole slowly and the stubby bit with less flex help as well. The clamp for the little table on my lathe will fit on any side. I simply drop the little cam between the ways of the lathe, turn it with my finger and tighten it down. I can move the table anywhere I want. and rotate it 360 degrees. I have my sandpaper all laid out so that I can sand efficiently. So let's sand. My speed is set fairly low, like 400 roughly. And I normally sand in reverse. I'm not going to turn my dust collection on just because it's so noisy. I'm going to start with 150. I usually start with a little coarser grit than I think I really need. I try to keep that paper moving. I want nice, smooth transitions. And that's probably good for 150. I'm going to stop and check. Wipe it off. Okay. So that's very good. Let's move to 220. 220 is the last grit I consider that does much shaping. At this point, I'm kind of in between, and pretty soon I'll just be polishing, really. .220, let's go for 320. Wipe it off. 400. And 600. I go to 600 and then use my white Scotch-Brite to buff with, and I want a real shiny surface that does that for me. Wipe it off. Let's buff it with the Scotch-Brite. And that brings up a nice shine. Okay, that looks very good. That white Scotch-Brite brings up a shine that if I have any scratches, it shows them off very obviously. So try using it. To hang my penguin, I'm going to use an eye pin which measures 0.027 inches. I just happen to have a drill bit of that size. How lucky am I? If you forget to drill your hole before you sand it like I did, it doesn't matter at all. Just turn your lathe on around 400 RPM. Start gently. And once it's going fine, drill it all the way in. And you're done. Start drilling slowly. If all's well, go for it. But if the tiny bit flexes, stop. Try steadying the bit with your fingers. If that doesn't work, use a hand drill instead. I can see the eye pin looking through the beak hole, so I just dropped a couple of drops of super glue down that hole, and we're good. When I'm parting off, I will use a narrower parting tool, and I'll start so I'm flush with the cut and angle it a little bit this way so that I have extra wood that I can turn away and not have that little tear out. So I'm cutting it till it's about maybe 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and then I'm going to use a saw to finish it off. And you can see There's no torn grain at the center there. This is my homemade collet chuck to reverse chuck the penguins. And if you listen, you'll hear it just snap in. The tenon on the bottom fits snugly in the hole of the chuck body and serves to center the collet. To be able to reverse chuck the penguin, I made a collet to fit the inner profile of my Vicmark chuck jaws. At the base, I left about a 1/16 inch of clearance so the jaws could close a little bit. You can see that here and here, while putting pressure at the top. The inside bottom is also shaped to hold and center the head of the penguin. The jaws are about a 1/4 inch thick so they can bend, while the rim is about 3/8 of an inch thick. And finally, I sawed down to the base to create 4 different jaws. To adapt to a smaller diameter, I inserted a piece of rubber inner tube. And it works beautifully. Without the inner tube, a larger penguin fits just fine. And with the inner tube, smaller penguins fit just fine. I had to drill a hole all the way through the collet so I could take a pencil and push the penguin out. Okay, we're all set to finish the bottom. And just a couple of passes. I want to dish the bottom slightly. And that's it. We'll sand that up. I'm going to start with 220, okay, and I'm going to do it in reverse. I don't want to take much off, and it's easier to control when I'm using my fingers. I'm going to shift to my disc sander because I do want it a little dish, and this makes it very easy to do that. This is, I sanded it by hand with 220, and this is actually 220 here as well. 600. Scotch-Brite white buff. Okay, that looks great. I'm going to ease the edge of that a little bit, and I'll be back with you. Okay, I'm going to put a little texture on the bottom with my Sorby spiraling tool. So speed around 500. Hitting right on the center line and a little ways from center. In gently and firmly and hold. Add a little spiral just like so. And a nice little pattern. Now let's put some lines on it so I can write my name. Let's put like there and out here. Okay, and it's done. Here's my my sizing jig here. I have a 5/32 hole here, and I also have a drilled an 1/8 hole here and cut down so that I can size a tenon. But let's size it to 5/32 for that'll be the size of the eyeball. It's time to make some eyes. I cut a piece of my red maple because it's so nice and white and accepts stain very nicely. It's about a 1/4 inch square and yay long, whatever, which doesn't matter. I'm going to stick it in my chuck all the way in and only have a little bit sticking out, about maybe an inch. Tighten that up a little bit. Okay, let's make some eyes now. Round it off a little bit. Taper the nose. Round the end just slightly. Need a little bit. I want to get closer to 5/30 seconds. We'll size it to 5/30 seconds. There's 5/30 seconds. Take a 240 and we'll bend it. And remember that the eye is such a small diameter that at the center of rotation it's not moving very fast, so I have to help it out by moving the sandpaper up and down. That's 240, 320, 400, and 600 here. That's looking pretty good. This is my 1/8 inch parting tool. Instead of sharpening it at 90 degrees, I have it sharpened at an angle so that I can make an undercut like so. Size it the eyeball now. Okay, we're going to size it to 1/8 of an inch. Slide that over. Okay, did that. Take 600 and just take that little burr off the edge there. Time to part it off. Don't stop it now. Another successful eye. I soak the eyes for a few minutes in the black artisan dye from Craft Supply. Take them out and let them dry at least overnight. I'm going to make the beak out of canary wood that Steve Gary gave me. It's a 1/4 inch square and so long. Okay, first thing I'm just going to round it out, put a little taper on it. Okay, that looks about right. Let's size it, and I'm going to size this one to 5/30 seconds. Now I need to prep the tenon. That should be fine. Size the tenon to 1/8. Use a little 600 to get that burr off. And sand a little bit. Let's just part it off. One beak. And here we have 3 different beak sizes: 5/30 seconds, 11/64, and 3/16. To make the feet, I have some plum wood. It's cut about a 1/4 inch square, and I only have smaller pieces of it. Chuck it up. Only let a small portion sticking out. I'm going to start by making them rather square, so it's a 1/4 inch this way, and I want to make it about a 1/4 inch this way as well, so it'll be rather square. If you're very gentle with your parting tool, you will be just fine. In making of the feet, remember to be very gentle and patient. If you rush it and try to size it before it's ready, it'll end up twisted like this and useless. Be very gentle. Okay, we're very close to 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to size it with our 1/8 inch. Yes, wonderful. Clean up the undercut. Have I mentioned why I undercut and drill oversized holes? Well, by undercutting and drilling oversized holes, the idea is to give the eyes, beak, and feet some wiggle room so they can seat themselves perfectly against the body. I make a bunch of these, and I make them double-ended, so when I go to the belt sander, I have a little bit of practice and I can be more consistent in the shaping of the feet. On the belt sander, set it down flat, lock it up, flip it over, lay it down flat, lock it up. To put toes on the penguin feet, I'm going to use a combination of this fine little saw and a diamond half-round file. Use my finger to guide me to get started. The half-round shapes the toes, and the saw makes them much more visible. The saw marks make those toes just stand out. One completed foot. Penguins hanging up to dry, almost ready for assembly. All the parts are ready. It's time to assemble. I put a dollop of yellow carpenter's glue on a piece of plastic. Any carpenter's glue will do. I'll use an applicator. I'm going to just dip it in that, and I'll put that in the beak hole. I'll grab a beak. Do the same thing again. Get a little bit on that tenon. And then I can put the beak in. Now, if your penguin already has a coat of finish, any excess glue will easily wipe off. So, finish assembly, and be sure to put another coat of finish on. Remember, you are the one that decides. Be safe, think it through. Is it safe for you?